We are so glad that you have enjoyed our weekly podcast of Side Quest. We hope that you continue to listen and enjoy the exciting world of the Land of Sojourn. We firmly believe that music enhances the listening experience. Unfortunately, we are unable to include music directly on YouTube. Therefore, we recommend that you listen to Smells Like Teen Spirit by Malia J on your favorite streaming service before each episode. Vikings are a particular breed, violent, heartless, brave, and full of life. One minute they are killing, and another they are poets. Regardless to their nature, they do care about their reputations. Here is a quote that best sums up their true potential. Cattle die, kinsmen die, you yourself will also die, but the reputation of a good man never dies. From the documentary titled Within the Land of Sojourn with Adventure Guildmaster Dash Brent. Welcome to Episode 6, the finale of Burdened with Glorious Purpose.
The Emperor Knight stood as an imposing figure on the battlefield, his presence both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Towering at an impressive 30 feet, he was a colossus of power and precision. His armor gleamed under the virtual sun, each plate meticulously crafted to withstand the fiercest of attacks. The shield he bore was massive, almost like a fortress wall, and his extended sword was a weapon of legend, ready to strike with lethal accuracy. Every movement he made was deliberate, a testament to his mastery in combat. As the players faced this formidable foe, a mix of disbelief and fear rippled through their ranks. "How can we possibly defeat something so massive?" one player whispered, eyes wide with apprehension. "He's like a walking fortress," another murmured, gripping their weapon tighter, as if seeking reassurance. The sheer scale of the Emperor Knight seemed insurmountable. Yet, amid the uncertainty, a spark of determination flickered. Ethan, sensing the wavering resolve of his comrades, called out, "We've come this far together. We can do this." His words, though simple, carried the weight of their shared struggles and victories. Slowly, the players' fear began to transform into a steely resolve, each of them drawing strength from the camaraderie they had forged. As the Emperor Knight prepared to unleash his next devastating attack, the players steeled themselves for the battle of their lives. The odds seemed insurmountable, yet deep down, a glimmer of hope began to take root. 3 towering orcs, each wielding massive battle axes, charged at the Emperor Knight with fierce determination. Their size and strength were formidable, yet they seemed almost insignificant in comparison to the Emperor's towering presence. Ethan watched with a mix of admiration and trepidation, keenly observing the tactics the Emperor Knight employed. With a swift and powerful kick, the Emperor sent one of the orcs flying so far that it vanished from sight, a testament to his overwhelming strength. The remaining 2 orcs leaped at him, but with a single, sweeping motion of his blade, the Emperor dispatched them effortlessly, their defeat underscoring his unparalleled prowess. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Ethan urgently called for the guild captains and leaders to convene. This was no ordinary battle. It was a one-shot fight, meaning that a single unshielded hit from the Emperor could spell the end for any player. The stakes were incredibly high, and the need for a cohesive strategy was paramount. As Ethan rallied his comrades, he noticed the ranks swelling with more players joining the fray, each eager to contribute to the battle. The atmosphere was tense but charged with determination, as everyone prepared for the daunting challenge ahead. The Emperor Knight's structure was nothing short of magnificent. His armor was not just a means of protection, but a symbol of his authority and dominance. Each piece was intricately designed, interlocking seamlessly to provide both mobility and defense. The sword he wielded was an extension of his will, capable of cleaving through the toughest of defenses with ease. The Emperor's stance was one of readiness, every muscle poised for action, exuding an aura of invincibility that was both intimidating and inspiring. The initial chaos of the battlefield was marked by a flurry of random attacks as players, driven by adrenaline and desperation, hurled spells, fire, and any weapon they could muster at the Emperor Knight. It was a scene of frenetic energy, with bursts of magic and flames lighting up the battlefield in a dazzling yet disorganized display. Each player acted on instinct, their actions fueled by a mix of fear and determination. Spells crackled through the air, some finding their mark, while others dissipated harmlessly against the Emperor's impenetrable armor. Fireballs exploded around him, creating a spectacle of light and sound, yet failing to breach his defenses. The players' efforts, though valiant, lacked the cohesion needed to make a significant impact, each attack a solitary attempt in the face of a monumental challenge. Amidst the chaos, it became clear that individual efforts, no matter how powerful, were insufficient against such a formidable foe. The Emperor Knight, seemingly unfazed by the barrage, started his relentless assault, his movements calculated and precise. It was then that the players realized the necessity of unity and coordination. The Emperor Knight, towering like a titan amidst the chaos, raised his colossal sword high into the sky. At its tip, a swirling ball of fire materialized, crackling with an intensity that seemed to draw energy from the very air around it. The flames danced menacingly, casting an ominous glow across the battlefield. With a swift and deliberate motion, the Emperor swung his sword, aligning it with a group of 3 players who had huddled together for support. The fiery orb shot forth with terrifying speed, a blazing comet of destruction. As it reached its target, the ball of fire erupted with a deafening roar, the explosion unleashing a shockwave of heat and force that reverberated across the battlefield. The 3 players were sent hurtling through the air, their screams of pain echoing as they were thrown apart like rag dolls caught in a storm. The Emperor Knight's assault continued with relentless precision, each fiery attack a testament to his fearsome power. He targeted random clusters of players, his strikes unpredictable yet devastatingly effective. The battlefield was a scene of chaos and destruction, as explosions erupted in rapid succession, each one more intense than the last. Flames licked the ground, leaving scorched earth in their wake, while the air was thick with the acrid scent of burning. Players scrambled to evade the onslaught, their movements frantic as they sought cover from the Emperor's fiery wrath. Despite the chaos, there was a grim determination in their eyes, a fierce resolve to withstand the Emperor's fury. The intensity of the fire and the ferocity of the attack served as a stark reminder of the formidable foe they faced. Yet it also fueled their determination to fight back with everything they had. The random attacks, though brave, served as a wake-up call, highlighting the need for a more strategic approach. As the dust settled from their initial onslaught, the players began to regroup, their leaders calling for calm and urging them to focus their efforts. The realization dawned that only by combining their strengths and working in harmony could they hope to overcome the Emperor Knight's overwhelming power. This newfound understanding set the stage for a more organized and effective assault as the players prepared to face the challenge ahead with renewed determination and a shared sense of purpose. As the battle raged on, the Emperor Knight moved with a grace that belied his massive size. His strikes were precise, each swing of his sword calculated to maximize impact. He was a master of the battlefield, his presence commanding respect and fear in equal measure. The players knew that defeating such a formidable foe would require not just strength but also strategy and coordination. However, as the pressure mounted, each clan began to assert its own strategy, vying for control over the chaotic battlefield. The Warriors of Dawn, known for their brute strength, called for a full frontal assault, their leader shouting, "Charge! Overwhelm him with sheer force!" Meanwhile, the Shadow Guild, masters of stealth and precision, advocated for a more tactical approach. "We need to flank him and strike from the shadows," their leader insisted, his voice calm but firm. The Elemental Coven, with their mastery over magic, proposed a barrage of spells to weaken the Emperor Knight's defenses. "Let's rain fire and ice upon him until he falters," their mage leader suggested, her eyes alight with arcane energy. Amidst the clamor, the Sky Archers, perched in strategic positions, urged for a coordinated volley of arrows to distract and disorient the colossal foe. The battlefield buzzed with conflicting commands, each clan convinced their strategy was the key to victory. Tensions flared as players struggled to find a unified approach, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of determination and desperation. Yet, despite the discord, there was an underlying sense of camaraderie, a shared understanding that only by working together could they hope to defeat the Emperor Knight. Ethan, recognizing the need for unity, stepped forward and raised his voice above the group. "We need to combine our strengths," he urged, his tone both commanding and reassuring. "Let's synchronize our attacks and support each other. Together, we can bring him down." In that pivotal moment, the Chrome Killers, known for their versatility and adaptability, were the first to rally behind Tron. Mateo, a prominent figure within the clan, spoke up with conviction. "Let Ethan lead," he declared, his voice carrying a sense of urgency and trust. His clan master, gettin' jiggy. Whittet, a formidable presence on the battlefield, nodded in agreement. "If not for his guidance, we might not have survived this long," he added, his endorsement lending significant weight to the decision. Inspired by their resolve, the other clans quickly followed suit. The leaders of the Warriors of Dawn, Shadow Guild, Elemental Coven, and Sky Archers acknowledged Tron's strategic acumen and agreed to unite under his leadership. With a shared cry of determination, they entrusted Ethan, known in the game as Tron, with the responsibility of guiding them through the battle. Under his command, the clans coordinated their efforts, each contributing their unique strengths to form a cohesive and formidable force against the Emperor Knight. Slowly, the players began to rally around Ethan's call for cooperation. Each clan adjusted their tactics, finding ways to complement one another's strengths. The Warriors of Dawn charged with renewed vigor, supported by the Shadow Guild's stealthy maneuvers. The Elemental Coven unleashed their spells in harmony with the Sky Archers' volleys, creating a symphony of destruction aimed at the Emperor Knight. As the players united under a common strategy, the tide of battle began to shift. The Emperor Knight, once an insurmountable force, now faced a coordinated assault that tested even his formidable defenses. The players, fueled by their newfound unity, pressed their advantage, determined to achieve the impossible together. Ethan, amidst the chaos, felt a surge of determination. The Emperor Knight was a daunting adversary, but he also represented a challenge that was too enticing to resist. As he prepared to lead his comrades into battle, Ethan knew that this fight would be a defining moment. It was an opportunity to prove their mettle, to rise to the occasion and overcome the seemingly insurmountable odds. With a final rallying cry, Ethan and his allies charged forward, ready to face the Emperor Knight and etch their names into the annals of the game's history. As the battle unfolded, Ethan's mind was a whirlwind of analysis, meticulously observing every move the Emperor Knight made. Amidst the chaos, a sudden realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. The key to defeating this colossal foe lay in the scepter he wielded. This mythic scepter, a relic of immense power, was the source of the Emperor's formidable abilities. If they could somehow seize it and turn its power against him, victory might be within reach. Ethan quickly communicated this insight to the guild captains, urging them to focus their efforts on distracting the Emperor Knight. Ethan's thoughts raced as he considered the intricacies of the game. Every boss had its weaknesses and strengths, carefully crafted by the programmers. He wondered if their relentless desire to kill could be exploited as a distraction, allowing a stealthy approach to the orb connected to the scepter. Was this the vulnerability the developers had designed into the boss? A bloodthirsty nature that overshadowed strategic thinking? Time and again during the battle, The Emperor Knight would pause his attacks to dismember or kill a weaker player, driven by a ruthless instinct just like his knights. Ethan remembered a pivotal fight with a two-sword armed head knight where he stopped mid-battle to attack weaker players. It went for the easy kills, or tried to remove the top player it saw, avoiding the rest. Each time the scepter struck, it was not a haphazard swing aimed at nothing, but a calculated move designed to dismantle the party's strategic advantages. The Emperor Knight wielded the scepter with precision, targeting key positions and formations that provided the players with a tactical edge. For instance, he aimed a devastating blow at the perch where Tariq and Yalta had positioned themselves, a vantage point that allowed them to rain down attacks with impunity. By destroying this perch, the Emperor disrupted their line of sight and forced them to reposition, weakening their effectiveness. Similarly, when the main group of players congregated to launch a coordinated assault, the Emperor Knight targeted them with a powerful strike, scattering their formation and sowing chaos in their ranks. Each attack of the scepter was a deliberate attempt to undermine their strategy, forcing the players to adapt quickly to the shifting dynamics of the battlefield. Ethan recognized this pattern and understood that the Emperor's attacks were not random, but part of a larger strategy to dismantle their cohesion and morale. This insight was crucial in devising a plan to counter the Emperor's tactics and turn the tide of the battle. Each attack was ruthless. Ethan realized that this predictable behavior might be their opening, a chance to exploit the Emperor's single-minded aggression and gain the upper hand. The battlefield was a cacophony of magic and steel as various clans unleashed their arsenal of spells and projectiles at the Emperor Knight. Fireballs, arrows, and bolts of energy streaked through the air, each aimed at toppling the giant. Yet the Emperor was unfazed, deftly maneuvering his massive shield to deflect the onslaught. The shield was not just a defensive tool, it was an extension of his indomitable will, a barrier that seemed impenetrable. Despite the relentless barrage, the Emperor Knight stood firm, his resolve unshaken. In a breathtaking display of power, the Emperor Knight raised his sword high. Rays of blinding light shot forth from the blade, sweeping across the battlefield with devastating precision. Players caught in its path were obliterated, their avatars disintegrating into pixels before they could react. Those single players that erected barriers found their barriers disintegrating due to the individual weaknesses of one barrier and the massive blasts. The sheer force of the attack was awe-inspiring, a reminder of the Emperor's overwhelming might. As the battle raged on, Ethan noticed a troubling pattern emerging amidst the chaos. Without cohesive leadership, the players' efforts were beginning to falter, their attacks becoming disorganized and less effective. Players would continually pull away from his commands and try to attack without coordination. The Emperor Knight, sensing the disarray, was regaining his footing and preparing to unleash another devastating laser beam. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Ethan took command, his voice cutting through the din of battle. He quickly sent a mass party invite to all players on the field, uniting them under a single banner. As the invitations were accepted, players recognized the wisdom in Ethan's strategy and almost immediately submitted to his leadership, trusting his vision and guidance. With newfound coordination, the players unleashed a concentrated barrage of frost spells, their magic converging on the Emperor Knight with chilling precision. As the frost magic enveloped him, the Emperor Knight was frozen in place. His attempt to fire the laser beam halted mid-action. The air shimmered with icy energy, and the battlefield momentarily stilled as the Emperor's colossal form was immobilized. Ethan's decisive leadership had turned the tide once more, giving his allies the crucial opening they needed to press their advantage and push towards victory. The frost spells had only a quick reprieve as the sword laser encircled the blade with light and expanded with a powerful destructive blast that, luckily due to being frozen, was shot out away from anyone. "Viper," said Ethan, "we need to get all the clans to hit him with frost, ice, and then fire blasts of any kinds. We need to first destroy that shield, and I bet with our combined might we can." Caleb had been working tirelessly behind the scenes, helping coordinate every order and plan Ethan had to give. Being second in command is sometimes a tireless job. "On it," said Caleb. Coordinating with only the top clan leaders, he went to work messaging them in a frenzied state. They had one good shot before things could go bad. The Emperor's shield was formidable, but Ethan believed that, with enough concentrated force, they could break through. He called for the mages to channel their most powerful spells, directing them at the shield in a synchronized attack. Simultaneously, the warriors and archers prepared to strike the moment the shield faltered, ready to seize any opportunity to disarm the Emperor. The combined might of the players was a sight to behold, a dazzling display of magical prowess and teamwork. The mages, standing in a formidable line, chanted incantations with unwavering focus, their hands weaving intricate patterns in the air. From their fingertips erupted a torrent of elemental power, searing fireballs, jagged shards of ice, and swirling gusts of frost. Each spell was a masterpiece of arcane energy, crafted with precision and unleashed with devastating intent. As the spells converged on the Emperor's shield, the air became charged with an electric tension, crackling with the sheer force of their combined magic. The fireballs exploded against the shield in brilliant bursts of orange and red, their heat intense enough to scorch the earth beneath. Ice shards followed, piercing the shield with a chilling ferocity, their crystalline forms leaving trails of frost in their wake. The frost magic enveloped the shield in a shimmering mist, its cold tendrils creeping across the surface and sapping its strength. The ground trembled under the relentless barrage, each impact sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The shield, once an impenetrable barrier, began to show signs of strain. Hairline cracks appeared, spiderwebbing across its surface as the players' determination bore down upon it. The sound of cracking echoed like distant thunder, a harbinger of the impending breakthrough. Sensing the moment was near, Ethan's heart raced with anticipation. He could see the cracks widening, the shield's luminescence flickering as it struggled to withstand the onslaught. With a final concerted effort, the players unleashed their most powerful spells in unison, a crescendo of magic that shattered the shield with a resounding crash. The barrier disintegrated into a cascade of shimmering fragments, leaving the Emperor momentarily vulnerable. In that pivotal moment, the battlefield seemed to hold its breath. The players, their faces lit by the afterglow of their magic, stood ready to seize the opportunity. Ethan, eyes locked on the scepter, prepared to lead the charge, knowing that this was their chance to turn the tide and claim victory. The sound of the shield breaking was like thunder, echoing across the battlefield and signaling the turning point they had been striving for. As the final wave of spells collided with the Emperor's shield, the barrier gave way with a cataclysmic explosion of light and sound. The shield, once a seamless dome of shimmering energy, fractured into a myriad of glistening shards that burst outward in every direction. These fragments, like pieces of a shattered star, filled the air with a dazzling spectacle, catching the light and refracting it into a kaleidoscope of colors. They spun and twirled in the air, a breathtaking display of the raw power that had been unleashed. The battlefield was momentarily transformed into a surreal landscape, the ground littered with the remnants of the shield. Each shard, though small, seemed to hum with the echoes of the magic that had been poured into it, a testament to the players' determination and skill. As the shards settled, they created a sparkling carpet across the terrain, glinting underfoot as the players advanced. The air was alive with the remnants of magic, a tangible reminder of the barrier they had overcome and the vulnerability they had finally exposed in their formidable foe. As the shield shattered and the Emperor Knight stood exposed, A surge of adrenaline and pent-up energy coursed through the young players. This was the moment they had been waiting for, and they weren't going to let it pass without making some noise. From all corners of the battlefield, shouts of triumph and frustration erupted, each kid eager to let loose. "Take that, you jerk!" one shouted, his voice filled with the thrill of finally getting a chance to win. "This is for Jerry, you big bully!" another yelled, remembering their friend who had been killed earlier. "You can't boss us around anymore, you creep," a young mage declared, her fingers still tingling with leftover magic. "We're sick of your stupid tricks," an archer added, launching an arrow with fierce determination. "Eat dirt, you nasty old fart!" another player hollered, shaking a fist in the air. "We're gonna kick your sorry butt," a warrior bellowed, his words dripping with the anger of countless defeats. "No more of your evil crap, you scumbag," a rogue shouted, brandishing her daggers with a fierce grin. The air buzzed with their shouts, a chorus of young voices united in their mission to topple the big, bad boss who had been such a pain. Each word was a burst of their spirit, a fiery battle cry that pushed them forward, ready to finally beat the Emperor and claim their victory. Seizing the moment, Ethan touched his comms. "Viper, I need you to get all the archers to unleash explosive arrows at the same time." "Copy that, Tron," said Caleb, his voice crackling with urgency over the radio. The archers, perched strategically around the battlefield, drew their bows in unison, the tips of their arrows glowing ominously with explosive enchantments. With a synchronized release, the sky filled with a deadly rain of fire. The arrows arced gracefully before descending upon the Emperor Knight like a storm of vengeance. Each arrow found its mark with pinpoint precision, embedding themselves into the Emperor's armor and the ground around him. A split second later, the battlefield erupted in a series of deafening explosions. Fiery blasts tore through the air, sending shock waves that rippled across the terrain. The Emperor staggered under the onslaught, his once imposing figure now shrouded in smoke and flame. His defenses, already weakened by the shattered shield, crumbled further under the relentless barrage. The ground trembled as the explosions continued, each one a testament to the archer's skill and coordination. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burning metal and the echo of the blasts. The Emperor, caught in the epicenter of the chaos, struggled to maintain his footing, his armor scorched and dented by the relentless assault. As the smoke began to clear, the warriors charged in, their blades flashing in the dim light like streaks of silver. Ethan, at the forefront, moved with purpose and determination, his eyes locked onto the Emperor's scepter. He knew that disarming the Emperor was crucial to their victory, and he was prepared to do whatever it took to achieve it. With each step, Ethan felt the weight of his friends' hopes and the memory of their struggles. The Emperor, once a symbol of terror and oppression, now seemed vulnerable, his power waning under the combined might of the players. The battlefield, once a place of fear, was now a stage for their courage and resolve. As Ethan closed the distance, the Emperor desperately raised his sword, trying to regain control. Anticipating this move, Ethan rallied all the other players to create an impressive 70-ish player barrier. The weapons began to power up, emitting a low hum that resonated through the air. Sparks danced along their surfaces, growing into arcs of electricity that crackled with an intense, almost blinding light. The energy built up, pulsating rhythmically like a heartbeat, each pulse brighter and more powerful than the last. As the charge reached its peak, the weapons emitted a sound akin to a thunderclap, a deafening roar that echoed across the battlefield. The light intensified to a dazzling brilliance, casting stark shadows and illuminating the faces of the determined players. In a breathtaking moment, the energy was unleashed, a torrent of raw power that surged forward like a tidal wave. The unified barrier absorbed the initial impact, but the energy scattered in all directions, creating a magnificent display of radiant destruction. Explosions erupted wherever the energy touched, obliterating obstacles with awe-inspiring intensity and leaving trails of shimmering light in its wake. It was awe-inspiring being between the explosive light and not being vaporized, thought Ethan. The players, now emboldened by the spectacle of their combined strength, felt an unstoppable surge of confidence. Their unity and determination had turned the tide, and they pressed their advantage with renewed vigor. As they advanced, 5 players took the opportunity to taunt the Emperor. Marcus the warrior shouted, "Your reign ends today, you cowardly tyrant!" Ilara the mage sneered, "Is that all you've got? Pathetic!" Thorn the rogue laughed, "We've faced worse than you on our worst days." Lyra the archer called out, "Your time is up, Emperor. Prepare to fall." Galen the paladin declared, "You should have known better than to challenge us." With precision and determination, Ethan led the charge, ready to seize the scepter and turn the tide of battle once and for all. He tapped his comms and commanded, "Alpha and Gamma, on me. Everyone else, support the masses. We need everyone to work as a team like we do." He was met with 43 distinct and unified cries of "Booyah!" Ethan hit his comms, urgency in his voice. "Viper, keep everyone hitting him with explosive arrows," he commanded, his eyes locked on the orb scepter. With a determined sprint, he charged directly toward it. Like a synchronized school of fish, the players surged forward, their movements fluid and coordinated as they converged on the Emperor. The battlefield was a blur of motion and energy, each player executing their unique skills with precision. Ethan felt a swell of pride as he watched over 50 players take the initiative, ramming the Emperor with powerful special movesets. The combined force was overwhelming, causing the Emperor to stagger and fall backward, momentarily losing his grip on the situation. The air crackled with the energy of spells and the whizzing of arrows, each explosion from Viper's team of archers creating a dazzling display of light and sound. The Emperor, caught off guard by the relentless assault, struggled to regain his footing. Ethan could see the cracks forming in the Emperor's defenses, both physical and psychological. The players' unity and determination were palpable, a testament to their shared goal and camaraderie. As Ethan neared the orb scepter, he could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on him, but he was ready. With his allies at his back and the Emperor on the defensive, victory seemed not just possible, but inevitable. Caleb, seizing the moment, took the initiative to call in the heavy squad. With a firm voice, he instructed them to unleash every flame spell they had on the Emperor, who was beginning to rise from the ground. The urgency in his command was clear, and the squad responded with swift precision. "Everyone, clear the area!" Caleb shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon. The players immediately heeded his warning, scrambling for cover with practiced agility. As they took shelter, the sky above seemed to ignite with a brilliant cascade of fire. A synchronized barrage of flame spells rained down upon the Emperor's location, each impact resonating with a thunderous roar. Explosions of intense blue, yellow, and red flames erupted, creating a mesmerizing yet devastating spectacle. The flames danced wildly, licking at the ground and consuming everything in their path with fierce intensity. The air shimmered with heat, and the battlefield was momentarily transformed into a blazing inferno, the Emperor at its center. Ethan finally reached the orb scepter, his heart pounding with adrenaline. To his surprise, the mysterious player, clad in black, was right behind him, uncomfortably close, as if poised to snatch the scepter first. Instinctively, Ethan pushed him away, feeling the urgency of the moment. "Get back, you idiot," Ethan quickly said, but the player would not listen. He quickly called for backup, and his Gamma squad leaped into action, pulling the player back. The player instead kicked his teammate, causing them to move backwards. He was becoming aggressive. "Crap," Ethan thought. "This is costing us precious seconds." Suddenly, the air was filled with a familiar, ominous hum. Ethan turned just in time to see the Emperor, a look of malicious glee on his face, raising his sword. The weapon crackled with energy, a brilliant light building at its tip. Realizing the imminent danger, Ethan screamed, "Run!" He didn't need to look to know the Emperor was aiming directly at them. With a burst of speed, he darted away, narrowly avoiding the impending blast. The Emperor's sword, a formidable weapon of ancient design, began to glow with an intense, otherworldly light. The air around it vibrated with a deep, resonant hum, building in intensity as the energy gathered at its tip. Sparks of electricity danced along the blade, converging into a pulsating orb of pure power. The light was blinding, casting stark shadows across the battlefield and illuminating the determined faces of the players. As the energy reached its zenith, the sword emitted a thunderous crack, like the sound of 1,000 storms unleashed at once. The orb exploded forward, transforming into a searing beam of concentrated energy. It sliced through the air with terrifying precision, leaving a trail of shimmering particles in its wake. The beam's color shifted from a brilliant white to a deep, ominous blue, its edges crackling with arcs of electricity that leapt outwards, seeking anything in their path. The sheer force of the blast was palpable, a wave of heat and pressure that rippled outward, distorting the very air around it. As it tore through the battlefield, the ground beneath it scorched and cracked, leaving a smoldering path of devastation. 2 members of the Gamma Squad were caught in its path as they had to seize the player in black, continuing to hold him back until they were disintegrating instantly into shimmering particles. The energy was relentless, an unstoppable force of destruction that obliterated everything in its way, culminating in a dazzling explosion as it struck its target. The shadowy figure, in a remarkable display of defiance, crossed his arms in front of him, bracing for impact. He had a sickly smile on its face. The energy collided with him, enveloping him in a blinding flash, exploding everything it touched. It let out a horrible scream. The force of the blast sent him hurtling out of frame, disappearing into the chaos of the battlefield along with the blast. Ethan, his heart still racing from the narrow escape, turned his attention back to the orb scepter, now revealed to be the mythic-level hammer of Sojourn. He knew that wielding such a powerful artifact could turn the tide of battle, but first he had to understand its complex game mechanics. The hammer was a massive, intricately designed weapon, its surface etched with glowing runes that pulsed with a rhythmic energy. As Ethan examined it, a holographic interface appeared, displaying crucial information about its capabilities. The Hammer of Sojourn was formidable, but it came with limitations. It could unleash 2 devastating shots, each capable of altering the battlefield, but only 2 shots within a 5-minute window. After firing, the weapon required a 30-second cooldown period before it could be used again, a strategic interval that could mean the difference between victory and defeat. If it's used again before the 30-minute cooldown, it will remain unusable for 48 hours. Ethan quickly absorbed this information, his mind racing as he formulated a plan. He knew he had to time his use of the hammer precisely, coordinating with his team's movements to maximize its impact. With determination in his eyes, Ethan gripped the handle of the Hammer of Sojourn, feeling its power thrumming beneath his fingertips, ready to be unleashed. Ethan's mind was a whirlwind of calculations and strategies, but his military training and countless hours spent mastering complex video games kicked in, allowing him to quickly grasp the intricacies of the Hammer of Sojourn. The holographic interface flickered with data, and Ethan's fingers danced across it with precision, setting the weapon's targeting system to lock onto the Emperor. He could feel the hammer's energy pulsing in sync with his own heartbeat, a powerful connection forming between them. With the targeting system engaged, Ethan took a deep breath, centering himself amidst the chaos. "Everyone, get away!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the battlefield noise with commanding authority. His team, well versed in following orders under pressure, scattered to safety, leaving Ethan alone to face the Emperor. As the hammer's lock-on sequence completed, the sky above began to shift. The clouds, dark and ominous, parted as if in reverence to the weapon's might. A column of brilliant light descended from the heavens, converging at the tip of the Hammer of Sojourn. The air crackled with anticipation, the very atmosphere charged with the impending release of energy. 5 seconds felt like an eternity as Ethan held his breath, his focus unyielding. The Emperor, without missing a beat, began to rise to run at Ethan. Then, with a resounding crack, the hammer unleashed its fury. A beam of high-intensity energy erupted from the weapon, a blinding lance of light that tore through the sky with unstoppable force. It slammed into the Emperor's sword, which he had raised in a desperate attempt to shield himself. The impact was cataclysmic. The sword, once a symbol of the Emperor's power, shattered under the assault, exploding into a storm of incandescent shards. The shockwave rippled outward, a testament to the hammer's devastating power. Shards of the sword flew in all directions, embedding themselves into the ground and disintegrating any players caught in their path. Ethan was forcible, slammed away, still holding the hammer of Sojourn with a death grip. The explosion's force was so immense that the ground itself seemed to tremble, a reminder of the weapon's incredible might. As the dust settled, the battlefield was transformed, a testament to the hammer of Sojourn's unparalleled destructive capability. Ethan stood amidst the aftermath, the hammer still warm in his hands, knowing that this moment was not yet over. As the dust from the explosion began to settle, Ethan noticed a new menu appearing in his field of vision. The interface was sleek and ornate, befitting the legendary status of the weapon he now wielded. The menu introduced the Hammer of Sojourn as a mythic weapon, its description glowing with an ethereal light that seemed to pulse with the power contained within.
Congratulations, the message read. You have unlocked the mythic weapon, Hammer of Sojourn. The text continued, detailing the hammer's formidable abilities. Unleash the fury of the gods, capable of 100% obliteration of targets placed before it. Beware, for its weakness lies in barriers. The strength of multiple players' barriers can reduce its effectiveness, with percentages indicating the level of resistance. The longer the duration, the longer the destructive effect.
Ethan absorbed this information quickly, his strategic mind already considering how to best leverage the hammer's strengths while accounting for its vulnerabilities. The revelation of the weapon's capabilities filled him with a renewed sense of purpose. He understood the immense responsibility that came with wielding such power and knew that the key to victory lay in mastering its use. With the battlefield still echoing from the hammer's first strike, Ethan prepared himself for the challenges ahead, ready to harness the Hammer of Sojourn to its fullest potential. The Emperor stood amidst the wreckage, his once mighty sword now reduced to scattered shards glimmering in the dust. His armor, though still imposing, bore the marks of the hammer's wrath, and his eyes burned with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Despite the loss of his weapon, the Emperor's presence was no less fearsome. With his one good arm, he reached out with surprising speed and seized Ethan, lifting him effortlessly off the ground. Ethan struggled against the Emperor's iron grip, feeling the pressure intensify as the creature attempted to crush him. The world around him seemed to blur as he fought for breath, the Emperor's strength a terrifying reminder of the battle's stakes. Ethan's mind raced, searching for a way to escape, but the Emperor's grasp was relentless, his intent clear as he prepared to hurl Ethan aside like a rag doll. Just as the situation seemed dire, Connor sprang into action, his air boots activated with a sharp hiss, propelling him through the air with precision and speed. With a determined shout, he aimed twin blades at the Emperor's hand. "Enhanced throw," he said, as he launched the weapons at the hands, striking them with explosive precision. The impact was perfectly timed, a devastating blow that forced the Emperor's fingers to release their hold. Ethan dropped to the ground, gasping for air, but grateful for his friend's timely intervention. Connor landed beside him, ready to continue the fight, both of them aware that the battle was far from over. "Those were my favorite blades," Connor reminisced. "I'll buy you something newer," retorted Ethan. With renewed determination, Ethan steadied himself and prepared the Hammer of Sojourn for another strike. The Emperor, now weaponless but still formidable, glared at Ethan with a fierce intensity. His armor, though battered and scorched, still exuded an aura of menace. The battlefield had quieted momentarily, the air thick with anticipation as the two adversaries locked eyes. Ethan knew that this next move could determine the outcome of their epic struggle. As Ethan initiated the lock-on sequence, the hammer's interface flickered to life, tracking the Emperor's every movement with precision. The targeting system displayed a holographic reticle, aligning perfectly with the Emperor's position. The sky once again began to respond, the clouds swirling and parting to reveal the celestial power gathering above. The air was charged with energy, a palpable tension that set the hairs on the back of Ethan's neck on end. The Emperor, sensing the impending danger, leaped toward Ethan in a desperate attempt to stop him. His movements were swift and powerful, a testament to his enduring strength despite the loss of his weapon. Ethan's heart raced as he tracked the Emperor's trajectory, his mind a flurry of calculations and strategies. He knew he had to time his strike perfectly to ensure success. Caleb, recognizing the urgency of the situation, quickly took command, his voice cutting through the chaos with clarity and authority. "Everyone with knockback buffs and frost spells, focus on the Emperor now," he shouted, rallying the players to action. His strategic mind had identified the perfect opportunity to create a window for Ethan, one that could turn the tide of battle in their favor. As the Emperor lunged toward Ethan, a coordinated barrage of spells and abilities was unleashed. Knockback buffs sent shockwaves through the air, halting the Emperor's advance and staggering him momentarily, pushing him with expert timing back. Simultaneously, frost spells enveloped him in a chilling embrace, ice crystals forming around his armor and limbs. The combined assault was a spectacle of teamwork and precision, the air shimmering with magical energy as the Emperor's movements slowed, his form encased in a layer of frost. This crucial pause bought Ethan the precious seconds he needed, allowing him to regain his focus and prepare the Hammer of Sojourn for the decisive strike. The players' efforts had created the perfect opportunity, and now it was up to Ethan to seize it. Ethan's focus was unwavering, his military precision guiding the hammer's aim. The lock-on sequence continued, each second stretching into an eternity as the Emperor, still frozen, slowly closed the distance. Ethan's teammates watched in breathless anticipation, aware of the stakes and the skill required to wield the Hammer of Sojourn effectively. Connor, still by Ethan's side, prepared to intervene if necessary, his air boots ready for another daring maneuver. The lock-on sequence completed in 5 tense seconds, the hammer humming with energy as it prepared to unleash its divine fury. The beam of light descended, a radiant column that illuminated the battlefield with a blinding brilliance. Its intensity was unmatched, a testament to the power contained within the mythic weapon. The very air seemed to vibrate with the force of the impending strike, a prelude to the devastation about to unfold. The Emperor, still within arm's length now, reached out with his remaining arm, his fingers grasping for any chance to thwart the attack, but it was too late. The beam of light struck with pinpoint accuracy, enveloping the Emperor in its radiant embrace. The explosion was cataclysmic, far surpassing the previous strike in its intensity. The light consumed the Emperor, its sheer force causing the very ground to tremble. The battlefield was transformed into a scene of chaos and brilliance, the explosion's shockwave rippling outward in a display of raw power. The Emperor's form was consumed by the energy, and in a final spectacular burst, he exploded from this head down to his feet. As the dust settled, a giant congratulations appeared above everyone, signaling the victory and the unlocking of the second level of the Land of Sojourn. The message was a beacon of hope and achievement, a testament to their perseverance and teamwork. The players, once scattered and weary, now stood united in triumph, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they had conquered a formidable foe. Suddenly, XP bonuses and rewards filters through the player's notifications. The battlefield was transformed, and those who had fallen were instantly revived suddenly. This was something new. The players stood in awe of Ethan, who now glowed with a subtle, ethereal, golden light. His presence was both commanding and reassuring, a leader who had guided them through the storm. A new title appeared above his head, Emperor Buff, and the achievement Unlocked Emperor Bug flashed in recognition of his triumph.
New divine blessing, Emperor's Buff achievement unlocked. This rare and powerful reward, the player for their bravery and teamwork in the face of overwhelming odds. 1. Emperor's Resilience. Grants a temporary shield that absorbs a significant amount of damage, reflecting a portion back to attackers. This shield could be activated in critical moments, giving players a chance to regroup and counterattack. 2. Frozen Fury. Enhances frost and freeze spells, increasing their duration and effectiveness. This buff could allow players to slow down powerful enemies, creating strategic opportunities for their team to strike. 3. Unity's Strength. Increases the effectiveness of team-based abilities and buffs, amplifying their impact when used in coordination with other players. This encourages teamwork and strategic planning, reflecting the unity that led to the victory over the Emperor. 4. Hammer Mastery. Provides a temporary boost to weapon proficiency, particularly with heavy weapons like the Hammer of Sojourn. This could include increased damage output and a faster lock-on sequence, making it easier to land critical hits. 5. Emperor's Command. Temporarily grants the player the ability to issue commands that enhance the abilities of nearby allies, increasing their attack speed, defense, or magical potency. 6. Pixel Rebirth. Offers a one-time revival ability that allows a player to return to the battlefield after being pixelated, restoring them with a portion of their health and energy.
The massive doors of the cathedral creaked open, revealing a passage to the next challenge. This was now a nexus point, a gateway to the tundra of the First Men, the second level of their epic journey. The doors, grand and imposing, beckoned them forward, promising new adventures and trials. The air was crisp and cold, a stark contrast to the battlefield they had just left behind. Ethan, with his newfound title and the Hammer of Sojourn in hand, was stunned. The knowing that they had only just begun to uncover the mysteries of the land of Sojourn. The tundra of the First Men awaited, its secrets and dangers yet to be revealed. As they stepped through the cathedral doors, the players buzzed with excitement and camaraderie, their bond strengthened by the trials they had faced together. Conversations flowed freely, with players like Alex and Mia speculating about another level rumored to exist in the game. "Did you hear about the hidden realm beyond the tundra?" Alex asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. "I can't believe no one mentioned it before," Mia replied, her mind racing with possibilities. Meanwhile, others marveled at the unexpected turn of events. "I never thought we'd see players brought back to life after a victory like that," said Jordan, glancing at a group of recently revived teammates who were still adjusting to their newfound second chance. "It's like the game's rewriting its own rules," added Sam, shaking his head in disbelief. Amidst the chatter, Ethan, known in-game as Tron, found himself the center of attention. "Tron's a legend now," remarked Leo, nudging his friend. "Taking down the Emperor and wielding the Hammer of Sojourn? That's the stuff of legends." The players nodded in agreement, their admiration for Ethan clear as they recounted his heroic actions. A noise echoed through the air, resembling the high-pitched whistle of a bomb hurtling toward the earth. Within seconds, a deafening explosion rocked the ground near a crowd of players, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Dust and debris filled the air, obscuring vision and causing players to shield their eyes. As the dust began to settle, an ominous presence descended upon the battlefield. Emerging from the shadows, a stranger clad in black appeared, his entrance marked by a trail of smoke and embers still smoldering on his cloak. His landing had left a crater in the earth, the ground scorched and cracked beneath his feet. Despite the damage sustained from his dramatic arrival, he stood tall, his figure shrouded in mystery and malice. "Hand over the weapon, meatbag," he hissed, his voice dripping with venom and disdain. Each word was laced with a seething intensity that sent chills down the spine. His movements were unnaturally fluid, almost serpentine, as if each step was calculated to unsettle and intimidate. There was something deeply unsettling about the way he spoke, as though his words were infused with a dark, otherworldly energy that threatened to unravel the very fabric of reality. His presence exuded an oppressive malice, a chilling reminder of the danger he embodied. "Now," he commanded, as everyone was still absorbing the victory. Smoke and the embers of fire still danced around his smoldering attire. A player clad in all gray, clearly a ranger by his attire and demeanor, cautiously approached the menacing stranger. His movements were deliberate, each step measured to convey a sense of calm amidst the chaos. The ranger's eyes, sharp and observant, took on the scene, assessing the threat while maintaining an air of confidence. "Dude, freaking chill out," he said, his voice steady, yet carrying an undertone of urgency. His hands were raised, palms open in a universal gesture of peace, as he attempted to de-escalate the tense situation. The ranger's posture was non-threatening, his body language carefully curated to diffuse the stranger's aggression. His words, though casual, were imbued with a sincerity that sought to bridge the chasm of hostility that had erupted. The stranger's glowing eyes locked onto the ranger, a flicker of curiosity momentarily interrupting the malice that radiated from his being. For a brief moment, the air seemed to still, the tension palpable, as the players watched with bated breath. The ranger's attempt to reach out, to appeal to whatever humanity might exist within the stranger, was a gamble, a risky move in a game where the stakes were life and death. Despite the danger, the ranger stood his ground, embodying the courage and resilience that defined the player's spirit. His willingness to confront the darkness with words rather than weapons was a testament to the strength of character that lay at the heart of their community. Whether his efforts would succeed or merely delay the inevitable was uncertain, but in that moment the ranger's voice was a powerful reminder of the hope and unity that bound them all. In a swift and brutal motion, the stranger's energy-clad hand shot out, seizing the ranger by the neck. The player's eyes widened in shock and terror as the stranger's grip tightened with unyielding force. There was a sickening crunch as the stranger squeezed, the player's head popping off and dissolving into a cascade of pixels. The sight was both horrifying and surreal, a grim reminder of the stranger's lethal capabilities. "You can't do this in the game," said the closest player to the ranger as he took out his sword to confront the man in black, and another clanmate came to back him up. With a fluid motion, the stranger held out his hands, which crackled with black electricity. He swung his hands, the glowing appendages momentarily blocked by the players' swords, then slicing through the two players in a single, devastating arc. Their forms shattered into pixels, the fragments of their digital selves scattering into the ether. The stranger's attacks were precise and merciless, each movement calculated to maximize destruction and chaos. "You're a dead man," said another player, as he approached him with what looked like a mob of players. The man in black's energy hands were a blur of motion, each strike a harbinger of doom for those caught in its path. In a display of raw, brutal strength, the stranger grabbed the first approaching player, his energy hands gripping the unfortunate victim with unrelenting force. With a savage motion, he tore the player in half, the digital form disintegrating into a shower of pixels. The sight was both horrifying and awe-inspiring, a testament to the stranger's overwhelming power and the futility of resistance. The players knew they faced an opponent unlike any other, a being of pure darkness whose power seemed limitless. Yet even in the face of such overwhelming odds, they refused to yield. Their determination was unshakable, their resolve forged in the fires of adversity. Together, they stood as one, united in their fight against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. Despite the devastation, the players rallied together, their combined strength the only hope of overcoming the dark stranger. They knew that they had to unite to defeat this formidable foe, their abilities and skills converging in a dazzling display of teamwork and determination. Magic crackled through the air, arrows flew with deadly precision, and swords clashed against the stranger's defenses. The stranger raised his hand, and tendrils of dark energy erupted from his fingertips. The energy crackled with malevolent power, reaching out like serpents to ensnare four unsuspecting players. Their cries of alarm were cut short as the energy enveloped them, their forms shattering into fragments of light before being consumed by the darkness. The stranger's attack was swift and merciless, a chilling display of his destructive capabilities. Ethan, still glowing with the title of Emperor, instinctively moved to confront the stranger. But before he could react, the dark figure turned his attention to him, unleashing a blast of energy that struck Ethan with staggering force. The impact sent Ethan sprawling, the pain searing through his body as he fought to regain his footing. This pain was unlike anything he has felt in both the real world and the virtual world. He withered in agony, unable to think clearly. The hammer of Sojourn slipped from his grasp, landing with a heavy thud on the ground. "No!" shouted Connor, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. With swift determination, he retrieved a staff of electricity from his inventory, its surface crackling with raw power, as he aimed it at the menacing entity. He channeled the weapon, and powerful lighting shot forth, hitting the hands of the evil player. Power flowed into his hands, striking with savage intent. His intent was clear, but before he could unleash more fury, Nana leaped into action, her instincts honed and her magic ready. "Nana, no," Connor began, but she was already in motion. With a deft flick of her wrist, she activated her alteration magic, pulling Connor into the air and out of harm's way, and a savage blast of black energy exploded near his spot. Her eyes blazed with determination as she shouted, "Fry this mother foo!" Her words were cut short, as Yalta, ever the opportunist, seized the moment. A bolt of lightning, fierce and unrelenting, arced from his fingertips, striking the entity with devastating precision. The entity howled in agony, its voice a guttural roar that resonated across the battlefield. The electricity coursed through its form, burning away the cloak of darkness to reveal a suit of armor beneath, an obsidian shell armor that gleamed ominously in the flickering light. The armor was sleek and glistening with runes. "Holy crap," Tariq exclaimed, his voice tinged with awe and disbelief. "I've heard of this armor. It's the highest-tier armor on the market." His eyes widened as he recognized the legendary craftsmanship, the armor's reputation preceding it as both a symbol of immense power and a formidable challenge. "Only the highest-tier magic can affect it," he added, the weight of his words sinking in as the players realized the magnitude of their task. "No, Tariq, this is Dev armor," said Yalta. He should not have it. The revelation sent ripples through the players, their resolve hardening as they realized the true nature of their adversary. The entity was not just a creature of darkness, but a warrior encased in armor that spoke of untold strength and resilience. Nana, fueled by determination and adrenaline, attempted to use her magic to pull the stranger's arms and legs apart, hoping to weaken the formidable foe. But as she exerted her power, something unexpected occurred. From the back of the dark entity, energy tendrils emerged. Crackling with an ominous energy, they lashed out with terrifying speed, wrapping around Nana's legs and slamming her forcefully against the ground and back again to the other side repeatedly. The impact was jarring, and before she could recover, the tendrils lifted her into the air, bringing her face to face with the entity. Its eyes glowed with an eerie intensity as it spoke, its voice a chilling whisper that resonated with malice. "You hurt me, human," it said, each word dripping with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Before the entity could unleash further wrath upon Nana, Yalta sprang into action. With a swift motion, he recreated his electric fence, the arcs of electricity severing the tendrils that held Nana captive. The tendrils recoiled, disintegrating under the force of Yalta's magic. As Nana fell, Connor was there to catch her, pulling her safely into his arms. "He just beat you like Loki and the Hulk," he said quickly, laughing. "Are you okay?" he finished. Nana quickly retorted, "Nothing about today has been fine." The stranger, momentarily thwarted, began to levitate, supported by a pair of black tendrils that extended from its form to the ground. These tendrils acted as anchors, slowly lowering the entity back to the floor with an unsettling grace. Caleb was at Ethan's side, looking him up and down, as Ethan was unconscious at this point. Shaking him, Tron, wake up!" The stranger in black advanced with a predatory grace, his eyes fixed on the mythic weapon. The players, realizing the gravity of the threat, rallied together in a desperate attempt to protect Ethan and make sure it didn't claim the hammer. Multiple clans converged on the stranger, their combined forces determined to halt his advance. The battlefield erupted into chaos as players unleashed their abilities, a symphony of magic and steel clashing against the dark figure's relentless assault. The stranger's path of destruction was relentless, each move a testament to his overwhelming power. A player attempted to cast a protective barrier, but the stranger's tendrils pierced through it effortlessly, reducing them to ashes in an instant. As all 4 tendrils hit the player, electricity channeled through him. Another player, armed with a spear, lunged forward with determination, only to be caught mid-air by the tendrils and slammed into the ground, their weapon and armor shattering upon impact, and a second time the player was reduced to a purple flame. A mage, hoping to turn the tide, conjured a fireball, but the stranger absorbed it with a dismissive wave of his hand, redirecting the flames back with devastating force, melting the player. "You are all too weak," it said mockingly. Elsewhere on the battlefield, a rogue tried to flank him, but the stranger anticipated the move, using his energy to create a shockwave that sent the rogue flying, their daggers disintegrating upon contact. A warrior charged with a fierce battle cry, their axe raised high, but the stranger's tendrils wrapped around them, crushing their armor and extinguishing their life in an instant. An archer loosed a volley of arrows, but the stranger deflected them with a mere glance, the projectiles turning to dust before reaching their target with its dark energy. In a desperate attempt to aid their comrades, a healer tried to revive a fallen ally, but the stranger's energy disrupted the spell, hitting them with black tendrils, causing both to pixelate and vanish. A player wielding a hammer swung with all their might, only for the weapon to shatter against the stranger's armor, leaving them defenseless. A sorcerer summoned a storm of ice, hoping to freeze the entity in place, but the stranger's black armor melted it away, leaving the sorcerer exposed to a fatal strike from the entity's black hands. Lastly, a bard tried to rally the players with a song of courage, but the stranger silenced them with a wave of dark energy, their instrument and voice extinguished in an instant. It then slammed its electric hand through the player's chest, exploding the bard in fire and blood. Despite their best efforts, the players struggled to mount an effective defense. The stranger's energy was a force of nature, an unstoppable tide that swept through their ranks with impunity. His attacks were relentless, each one a harbinger of doom for those caught in its path. The battlefield was a scene of carnage, the air thick with the acrid smell of smoke and the cries of the fallen. Ethan, wounded but undeterred, sat up. He watched in horror as the stranger continued his rampage. He knew that they could not allow the stranger to claim the Hammer of Sojourn, for its power in the wrong hands could spell disaster for the entire realm. Summoning his resolve, Ethan called out to his fellow players, urging them to stand together and fight as one. The battlefield was a scene of chaos and desperation as the stranger in black continued his relentless assault. His dark energy was a terrifying force, each tendril a harbinger of destruction. When the energy touched a player, it was as if the very essence of their being was unraveled, their forms shattered into fragments of light, dissolving into nothingness with a haunting finality. The air was filled with the sound of cracking energy and the cries of those caught in its deadly embrace. Despite the overwhelming odds, the players refused to back down. Among them was Tariq, a skilled archer known for his precision and bravery. Seeing an opportunity, Tariq knocked an energy arrow, its tip glowing with a brilliant blue light. He took aim at the stranger, his focus unwavering amidst the chaos, and held the bow, powering up with peak stamina. With a deep breath, Tariq released the arrow, watching as it streaked through the air with unerring accuracy. The arrow struck the stranger with a resounding impact, carving out a piece of his shoulder. For the first time, the dark figure faltered, his movements momentarily slowed by the unexpected attack. It screamed with pure agony as purple blood splattered the landscape. A ripple of hope surged through the players as they witnessed the stranger's vulnerability, however fleeting it might be. Tariq's shot had proven that the stranger was not invincible, and the players seized the moment to press their advantage. Undeterred, the stranger reached for the Hammer of Sojourn, his eyes gleaming with malicious intent. He lifted the mythic weapon with ease, its power resonating with his own dark energy. The players watched in horror as he attempted to wield the hammer against them, the sky beginning to darken in response to the weapon's activation. The threat was palpable, a reminder of the devastation the hammer could unleash. But Ethan, despite his injuries, refused to let the stranger succeed. Summoning every ounce of strength, he charged forward, his resolve unbreakable. He activated his weapon, and his dark sword glowed a deep color. With a mighty swing of his own blade, Ethan cleaved through arms plates, exposing new wounds that spat purpose blood. The Hammer of Sojourn fell to the ground, its power momentarily neutralized. The stranger let out a howl of rage, yet his laughter soon followed, a chilling sound that echoed across the battlefield. The stranger seemed almost invincible, his laughter a testament to his confidence and malevolence. His dark energy continued to lash out, a relentless tide of destruction that threatened to overwhelm the players. Among the players was Yalta, a warrior renowned for his prowess with an energy sword. His weapon shimmered with a radiant light, a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Yalta knew that they needed to strike at the heart of the creature to pierce the very source of its power. With a fierce battle cry, he charged at the stranger, his energy sword poised to deliver the decisive blow. The players rallied around Yalta, their abilities converging in a dazzling display of unity and strength. Magic crackled through the air, arrows flew with deadly precision, and swords clashed against the stranger's defenses. The battlefield was a cacophony of sound and light, a testament to the players' unwavering resolve. Together they fought as one, their spirits unbroken by the seemingly insurmountable odds. Yalta reached the stranger, his sword cracking with a brilliant intensity. With a powerful thrust, he drove the blade through the stranger's heart, the impact sending a shockwave of energy rippling through the battlefield. The stranger's laughter faltered, replaced by a look of disbelief. Purple blood oozed out of the wound and spilled to the ground. The battlefield was a storm of chaos and destruction, yet amidst the turmoil a sudden shift in energy heralded the arrival of new hope. Dash and Beth appeared, their swords ice and frost gleaming with an ethereal light, cutting through the darkness like twin beacons of salvation. Beside them stood Kull the Conqueror, his presence a tower of strength, and Null the Destroyer, wielding the legendary Hammer of Heartache, a mythical representation of Thor's hammer. Together, these four warriors faced the stranger, their resolve as unyielding as the steel they carried. The clash was immediate and ferocious, a symphony of steel and power that echoed across the battlefield. Dash and Beth moved with a synchronized grace, their swords weaving a deadly dance of ice and frost that sought to encase the stranger in a chilling embrace. Their blades sang through the air, leaving trails of frozen mist in their wake. Kull charged forward, his strikes resonating with the force of 1,000 battles, each blow a testament to his indomitable will. They were hacking off the armor piece by piece. Yet it was Null who wielded another weapon of silver and gold. It was the Hammer of Heartache with an unmatched ferocity. The hammer sang through the air, each swing a promise of destruction, aimed at the heart of the stranger. The stranger, though powerful, found himself pushed to the limits by the relentless assault. His dark energy lashed out, a storm of tendrils and shadows that sought to ensnare and obliterate the warriors. But they pressed on, driven by a shared resolve to end the threat once and for all. The stranger retaliated with a vengeance, his movements a blur of deadly precision. He struck at Dash with a tendril of dark energy, but Dash parried with ice, the clash sending a shockwave that rippled through the air. Beth followed up with a swift strike from Frost, the blade slicing through the shadows with a flash of brilliant light. The stranger recoiled, momentarily staggered, but quickly regained his composure, his eyes burning with an unholy fire. Kull, seizing the opportunity, charged with a roar that shook the heavens. His sword cleaved through the air, aiming for the stranger's exposed flank. But the stranger was quick, deflecting the blow with a surge of energy that sent Kull stumbling back. Undeterred, Kull regained his footing, his eyes locked onto the foe with unwavering determination. Amidst the chaos, Null realized the key to victory lay in the Hammer of Sojourn. In a moment of clarity, the four heroes turned to Ethan, their voices rising above the din of battle. "Ethan, activate the hammer!" they shouted in unison, their words a plea and a command. Ethan, heart-pounding, stepped forward. The weight of the moment pressed upon him, but he knew what had to be done. With a deep breath, he reached out, his hand closing around the hammer's hilt. The power surged through him, a torrent of energy that threatened to overwhelm his senses, but he held firm, focusing his will, and activated the hammer. As the battle reached its fevered pitch, the air crackled with anticipation. The Hammer of Sojourn, now in Ethan's grasp, pulsed with an energy that seemed to draw from the very fabric of the universe. The four heroes, Dash, Beth, Kull, and Null, stood united in a final, desperate bid to end the threat of the stranger once and for all. Dash and Beth penetrated the creature with their swords. They used frost magic to freeze the entity's legs while Null slammed his sword through its right foot. As the three of them struggled and were thrown off of the entity, Null the Destroyer jumped on its back and pinned the entity with his own hammer in a death-bear hug. "Do it now!" he screamed. With a deep breath and a surge of determination, Ethan activated the hammer. The entity struggled deviously, repeatedly screaming no, but before he could leap away, Null lifted it in the air with his brother's sword sticking into its foot. The tendrils unable to penetrate his Viking armor as Null laughed loudly. A red dot appeared under their feet. A blinding light erupted from the hammer, a torrent of raw power that surged forth with an intensity unmatched by anything ever recorded. The ground trembled violently as the energy wave expanded, a shock wave that tore through the battlefield with unstoppable force. The Hammer of Sojourn unleashed its fury, a cataclysmic wave of energy that engulfed the stranger and Null. The force of the impact sent shock waves across the land, slamming everyone away with an unstoppable power. The players were thrown back, their forms scattered like leaves in a storm. Null, while holding the creature in place, smiled as he was unceremonially removed from the world of Sojourn. The stranger, caught in the epicenter of the blast, was engulfed by the searing golden light. His form writhed and contorted, shadows twisting and unraveling as the energy overwhelmed him. In a final, grotesque display, the creature exploded from its head down to its toes, its dark form bursting apart with a sickening squelch. A rain of ooze and ichor splattered across the battlefield, the remnants of the creature dissolving into a foul, viscous stain. The ground where the creature had stood was marked by a massive, inky blotch, a testament to the explosive end of the malevolent entity. The stain seeped into the earth, a dark reminder of the evil that had been vanquished, but it melted away as the blast blew apart everything in the ground it touched. As the light from the hammer's blast faded, the battlefield fell into a stunned silence. The players, who had been thrown back by the force of the explosion, slowly began to rise, their eyes wide with disbelief at the sheer scale of the devastation. "Did you see that?" one player gasped, still reeling from the impact. "I've never seen anything like it. The power of that blast. It was beyond anything I could have imagined." Another player nodded, their gaze fixed on the massive stain left by the creature's demise. And the way that thing exploded, it was like watching pure evil being torn apart. I've never seen anything so icky. The group of players exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of awe and relief. The battle had been won and the threat vanquished, but the memory of the explosive finale would linger in their minds for a long time to come. As they began to regroup, their conversations turned to the heroes who had made it possible. "Dash, Beth, Knull, and Cole," one player said, shaking their head in admiration. "They showed us what true courage looks like." "And Tron," another added, a note of respect in their voice. "He was the one who activated the hammer. Without him, we might not have made it." The players stood shocked, their hearts heavy with the loss of Knull, but buoyed by the knowledge that they had triumphed against an overwhelming foe. The battlefield, with its dark stain, stood as a somber reminder of the battle fought and the victory won, a tale of courage and sacrifice that would be told for generations. Knull was dead, his body destroyed, but victorious, having sacrificed himself to ensure the stranger's demise. His death was a blaze of glory, his spirit echoing through the battlefield as a reminder of his bravery. Beth and Dash, battered but alive, looked at the hole where Knull had died, with a mix of sorrow and admiration. "He was the most realistic AI I ever knew," Beth whispered, her voice tinged with awe. Dash nodded, his expression solemn. "He was more than that," he replied. "He was a hero." Ethan, witnessing the aftermath, felt a chill run down his spine. The strange echoes that had haunted him suddenly made sense. They were the remnants of these dark entities, the dark shadow people whose presence had loomed over the land. The revelation was both haunting and enlightening, as he realized the true nature of the threat they had faced. The battlefield was silent, save for the whispers of the wind, as the players regrouped, their hearts heavy with the loss, but buoyed by the knowledge that they had triumphed against an overwhelming foe. The stained hole remained, a somber reminder of the sacrifice made and the victory won. Yet, amidst the sorrow, there was a sense of hope, a belief that the darkness had been vanquished and that a new dawn awaited. As the dust settled on the battlefield and the echoes of the climactic clash faded into a tense silence, the remaining players began to gather, their voices a mixture of awe and exhilaration. The scene they had just witnessed was unlike anything they had ever imagined, a spectacle of heroism and power. "Did you see that?" one player exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. "Dash and Beth were incredible. The way they moved, it was like watching a perfectly choreographed dance of ice and frost." Another player nodded enthusiastically. "And Knull with the hammer of heartache. I've never seen anything like it. The power he unleashed was like Thor. It was both terrifying and awe-inspiring." "Don't forget about Cole," chimed in another, a note of admiration in their voice. He was a force of nature out there, charging into battle with no hesitation. It was like watching a legend come to life. The group of players buzzed with energy, their adrenaline still high from the battle. Seeing them all together fighting side by side against the stranger, it was like something out of a storybook, one player remarked, their eyes shining with wonder. And the way Tron activated the hammer, another added, shaking their head in disbelief. I never thought I'd see something so epic in a game. It was like being part of a movie. A player who had been silent until now spoke up, their voice filled with reverence. Null's sacrifice was... It was something else. He gave everything to make sure we won. He was more than just an AI. He was a true hero. The players fell silent for a moment, reflecting on the gravity of what they had witnessed. The battlefield, with its massive purple-black stained burned hole, was a testament to the epic confrontation and the sacrifices made. "Dash and Beth, Knull and Kull," one player finally said, breaking the silence. "They showed us what it means to be heroes. It's something I'll never forget." Ethan collapsed to the ground next to Beth and Dash, the three utterly spent both mentally and physically. Connor settled beside them as their team gathered around in a large circle. Tariq and Yalta laughed a joke only those two could hear. Gasping for breath, Ethan managed a weary grin and said, "Go ahead, say it. I know you want to." Connor chuckled and declared loudly, "VR? It's one hell of a drug." In unison, everyone in the Lost Souls clan shouted, "Booyah!" Off to the right, Null could be seen, softly crying for his brother, his towering body weeping quietly. Dash and Beth stood up, walked over to him, and hugged him strongly. "We know," they whispered softly. "We know." "My brother," he wept. "My brother